Is it expensive to travel in Zanzibar? This is the question that I was wondering. So in this week's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my entire Zanzibar cost breakdown in hopes that it helps you to be a smarter traveler coming up. And if you're new here, Jumbo! I'm Christine with Where in the World is CL, and I make travel videos every week to help you get up, get out, and go travel. So if you like to travel, consider subscribing. Let's start with a few tips that you need to know about getting in. The first one is that Tanzania does require a visa, and for US citizens, it does cost a little bit more, and I paid $100 for my visa. The second thing to know is around getting in and getting around. Depending on where you're going on the island, if you're exploring beyond Stonetown, I would recommend getting a driver. And for us, we got a larger car because we were a group of 4. And so for our car and for our driver, we paid $60 per day for the driver. And then we also were the ones responsible for covering things like gas and his meals. As a side note, these prices are from when I was traveling there in February 2021. And so I'm using the exchange rate $2 from that time. But I was paying in Tanzanian shillings the entire time I was on the island, and a couple times I paid with my credit card, but for the most part, I paid cash a lot of the time while I was on this trip. And this video is part of a larger Zanzibar video series, so make sure you check the link in the description for more helpful videos. All right, let's talk about hotels. Starting with Stonetown, and I stayed at the DoubleTree by Hilton Hotel and paid $115 a night after all the taxes and fees. I totally enjoyed this hotel, and my friends, they stayed nearby at the Dow Palace, and they paid $72 a night, and they totally enjoyed it as well. And one thing to note about these prices, when I was there, it's high season and the island was jam-packed. So just know that these are prices during high season. Hotel prices tend to fluctuate a lot. And I also booked these hotels like days before arriving. So there wasn't a ton of inventory when I booked them, which is why these next 2 hotels I'm not really a fan of. This next spot I stayed at is on the Jambiani Paje east side of the island, and I stayed at Geo Hotel, and I paid just $73 a night, which it might seem like a steal, but it's not in a great location. It's not exactly close to anywhere you want to be. And the other thing is that it's the type of bathroom where there's no divider between the shower and everything else. So when you take a shower, the entire bathroom was wet. It was really great value for your money, but I definitely would not stay there again. All right, let's head north to Nungwi, where I paid just $91 a night to stay at the Opera Hotel, which seems like a steal because it seems very nice, but when you look behind the curtain, the reason why I got this really great rate, Nungwi has a lot of expensive resorts. It's because this spot is off of the beach. You actually have to drive to the beach. It's not a fun walk. And the other thing is that it's a very, very basic hotel. I wouldn't recommend it, but it was a great steal. All right, what was the average price for hotels paid in Zanzibar? Out of all of these, after taxes, after fees, on average, I paid $93 a night for hotels. And if you're getting some value out of this, cheers that like button and consider subscribing. Share this with someone who might be traveling to Zanzibar. And most importantly, if you have hotel recommendations, prices, other info, drop them in the comments because I'm only sharing my experiences and I would love your tips for my next Zanzibar trip. All right, let's talk about the next thing we're all curious about, which is how much does it cost to eat and drink on this island? Let's start with some of the more expensive dining experiences because this is what you really need to plan for in your budget, which it's very affordable compared to other places in the world to eat in Zanzibar. So let's start with The Rock, which is definitely an amazing dining experience. And you can pay anywhere from $20 or so for pastas and $30 for seafood. A restaurant that I ate at several times inside the Hilton DoubleTree that's in Nungwi is the Fisherman Restaurant. And at this spot, plates were around $15 and grilled items were $25. And then if you head to Stonetown, I really loved eating at Emerson Tea House. Definitely an amazing dining experience. It's a set menu and it's $40 per person for that set menu. So those are some of the examples of the more expensive places to eat. I would say on average, everywhere on the island, I paid anywhere from $8 to $15 for a plate of food at an average restaurant. I'm not talking about street food. So $8 to $15 for a normal meal. And what about drinks? For me, I love drinking wine. I think you know that by now. But on average, for wine, I paid anywhere from $4 a glass to $8 a glass, even at the nice places, like at the bar in the Park Hyatt in Stonetown. $8 for a glass of wine and a beautiful experience was a total steal. So what the heck does that all add up to? Let's just call it on average having a normal breakfast and lunch around $5 to $10 a day, and then having a nicer dinner with a couple of drinks at one of these restaurants I talked about. On average per day, your food bill will be around $50 or less. I guess that price also depends on how much you drink in a day, which, by the way, if you want to buy me a glass of champagne to thank me for helping you with my videos, I would love for you to do that. Check the link in the description below to find out how. All right, let's talk about some of the activities and how much I paid for the activities. Let's start with boating because I love getting out on a boat. When we went to Mnemba Island, it cost us, well, they tried to get us to originally pay $220 to be taken out on a boat to the sandbar for snorkeling and hanging out. And we got that price down after negotiating to $70 for the entire experience. And this was split between 4 people. Here's another example of a boating experience, and this one is in Stonetown. We hired a boat driver to take us out to the island. They literally just dropped us off at the island, and then they set us up with like an umbrella and a cooler for our drinks because we brought our own drinks. And we basically hung out on the sandbar all day and then were driven back. And for this experience, we paid a total of $43 for 3 people. Here are a couple examples of a few more expensive activities. One was scuba diving, which in Zanzibar is still very, very affordable. I went out with East Africa diving, and with all of my gear and equipment, and even though I was the only diver on the boat, which was awesome, I only paid $100 for 2 scuba dives. And if you're on the east side of the island in Jambiani, Paje, and you want to learn to kite surf, you can do that with group lessons over the course of 3 days, and the average price that I was hearing about was $900 for those lessons for 3 days. And a couple of examples of super fun but super inexpensive activities. Also on the east side, I loved going to the Kuva Cave, which was just $10 per person to get in, or you can find signs on the beach everywhere of who to WhatsApp to have a bike delivered to your hotel. And I love just biking on the beach for just a $5 bike rental per day. I'm so curious. Tell me in the comments below if the prices I'm talking about are in line with what you expected or are more or less than what you anticipated. For me, I found out I was traveling to Zanzibar just a few days before I left, so it was all a surprise to me. That story for another day. But tell me in the comments below. I'm curious what you think. All right, let's recap where we're at with prices. When it comes to hotels, the average price paid was $93 for hotels. When it comes to food, assuming you had that nice meal at the end of the day, we're talking around $50 a day for food. And lastly, activities. I know it's all over the place, but on average, let's call it $20 a day for an activity. So we are looking at $163 a day to travel in Zanzibar, not including anything else. Let's talk about a few other really helpful tips for traveling around Zanzibar when it comes to saving money and costs in general. The first one is around exchanging your money. If you have US dollars, know that a lot of times on the island, you will get a better exchange rate for larger $50 and $100 bills than you will for the smaller denominations. And one thing to know is that ATMs are aplenty in Stonetown. Not saying that there's no ATMs on the rest of the island, but they're not as easy to find on the rest of the island. So if you have things like exchanging money or wanting to get money out of ATMs, consider trying to get that done in Stonetown before you travel out to other parts of the island. Another helpful tip is around saving money on laundry. If you need to do laundry on this island, consider trying to do it in Stonetown. I'll link in the description below the place that I was trying to go to where you pay per piece, but it's very, very, very cheap as compared to anywhere else on the island. And pretty much everywhere on the island, you would have to have your hotel do it, and you're again paying per piece, but it costs significantly more. If you like helpful tips like this, you might enjoy my email newsletter. Sign up for my travel tribe in the description below so you don't miss a thing and you get more helpful tips delivered right to ya. And a tip on tipping. So the guidance from the hotel, so when I was eating and drinking at the Park Hyatt, they were one of the only establishments that added a 5% mandatory tip. And so I didn't see that anywhere else, but the tip that I chose to give, because food was very affordable in Zanzibar, I just kept it at the average 15 to 20%. So that's just something to consider. And if you've made it this far in the video, then I have a secret video for you that I don't know if I'm gonna make it available to everyone on YouTube. A lot of people don't understand that I'm just trying to share my experience and in a way that helps you to plan your own Zanzibar trip. I try to make the videos I wish I got to see. And so while I don't want to call these scams in Zanzibar, I will call it things to look out for and tips for how to get out of them or navigate through these not so positive experiences that I personally had. So that video, if you want it, check the description below to find more info about it. So I'm Christine. I'm here every week with new videos. I hope to see ya in the next adventure. Ciao.